This is Living Power with Dan Hurst.
Abraham's servant went back to the homeland, to Ur, basically, and found her and brought her back for Isaac. And now we see in this passage where we're seeing a little bit about Jacob's nature and his character. Jacob was appropriately named because his name means the one who trips others up, or deceives others, or trips others up. The word means two things, basically. And he was really both of those. He was a deceiver as well as somebody who would trip somebody up just to take advantage of it. And last Sunday, we saw how Jacob had deceived his father into giving him the blessing. Now, there are two elements that we've studied over the past couple of Sundays. One was the birthright. He deceived his brother Esau into giving him the birthright. The birthright was the inheritance. The blessing was the passing of authority. So what happens is now Jacob has, and by the way, these were people of such integrity that you say, well, why didn't Isaac just rescind and say, oh, no, you deceived me, that was supposed to be for Esau. Their word was their bond. And if they gave their word, if they said it, they felt like it was done. It was a done deal. And a little different from the way it is today. And you couldn't go back on your word. And so that's why, we'll see this in a moment, that Isaac didn't feel like he could go back on his word. He'd given the blessing, he passed the authority along. And so now, the story, and I'm not going to read the whole passage because it's so long, but the story is that we pick up with now Jacob has received the blessing, or the authority, from his father, the authority over the family. So he's received the inheritance, and he's now essentially the patriarch of the family. Or will be when Isaac dies. Now Esau comes back from the field. His father had asked him to go out because his father was going to pass the blessing along to him. Isaac is blind, and he tells Esau, go out and get me some wild game and cook it up for me the way that I like for it to be cooked, and bring it back, fix it up, and let's spend some time together, and I want to pass the blessing along to you. Rebekah hears about this. She tells Jacob, she brings Jacob in and concocts this whole thing to deceive Isaac into thinking that it was Esau when it was actually Jacob. Now, what we see a little bit of is about Rebekah's character. Rebekah was probably doing this for the right reasons. Jacob was probably better at overseeing the family affairs and taking care of the family. Esau was kind of a wild man. In fact, the Bible says that he was a wild man. And he was probably not that interested in taking care of the business affairs of the family, whereas Jacob was. And so Rebekah probably thought this is a better deal. So she was doing this for what she considered to be the right reasons. Now Esau comes back and he tells Jacob, or Isaac, here I am to receive the blessing. And Isaac says, wait, whoa, who are you? And he says, I'm Esau, your firstborn son, the one that you're going to bless. And Isaac says, well, wait a minute, who was that I already blessed? And suddenly Esau realizes that Jacob has deceived his father. Now he knows that he's deceived him to give up the inheritance. Now he realizes that Isaac has been deceived to give up the authority of the family. And Esau is infuriated over it. And he decides, he says, well, can't you give me some blessing? Can't you do anything? And Isaac says, no, I gave my word. I can't do that. I can't go back on that. He says, well, give me some blessing. And Isaac gives him a blessing that says that you'll live out in the desert. And some very important words that he says. He says, at some point you will cast off the yoke and no longer be under your brother. That is where we are right now in history, where the Arab nation has finally decided we don't want to have anything to do with Israel. In fact, they hate Israel and want to destroy Israel. Esau now has decided that he's going to kill his brother. Interestingly enough, what he says is, I'm going to wait till the days of grieving are over for my father. There was a period of time where they would grieve over the death of someone, and I'm not exactly sure what that period of time was. I think maybe it was a year, but I'm not positive about that. But there was a period of time that they grieved, and he says, after that period of time, that after my father's death, then I'm going to kill Jacob. Rebecca finds out about this, that of what's going on and the way Esau's thinking. And so she comes up with another plan to protect Jacob. And she decides that Jacob should probably go live with her brother, Laban. And that if he goes and stays with Laban until Esau calms down, then everything will be okay. So she concocts this scheme to tell Isaac, to get Isaac's permission for Jacob to go. And she goes and she says to Isaac, now Esau, by the way, is married. He's married a couple of Canaanite women. And she goes to Isaac and she says, Isaac, if I have to put up with any more wives like Esau has, I'm going to lose it. That's pretty much what she said. And so Isaac realizes that, oh yeah, those Hittite women, they're bad news. I'm telling you right now, guys, any of you who are thinking about getting married, do not marry a Hittite woman. They're bad news. Stay away from Hittites. That's all I'm saying. So Isaac says, oh yeah, that's probably a good idea. So he says, he calls Jacob in. And he comes in, and the Bible says that he blesses him, which is just another word. It's also interchangeable for the word greeting. So he greets him, and I can imagine how cold that greeting was. Hello, Jacob. And all he says to him is, don't marry a Canaanite woman. That's all he says to him, basically. And he says, go to your brother Laban, and see, find a wife there. Now, I don't know if this is news to Jacob or not, that he's now supposed to go get married. But basically what he's told now is go find a wife, go to your uncle Laban, and go find a wife. And so Jacob prepares and to take off. Now we'll be studying about that over the next few weeks. But that's essentially what has happened now. So now there's this deception that has taken place. Isaac turns the blessing over to Jacob. Esau is furious now. He wants to kill his brother. Rebekah comes up with a scheme to send Jacob out of there to protect him. She comes up with this idea, well, he's going to have to get married. By the way, they're all about, Jacob and Esau are about probably around somewhere between 57 and 63 years old at this point. There's a point where you just, come on, when are you moving out of the tent, And that may have been part of it too, I don't know. But anyway, it was time for him to move on. So that's what happens in the story. Now, when you look at what has happened in this story, and really what it's all about, one thing comes to be very, very, there's one last part to the story I forgot. Esau hears now that Jacob's going to go back to the motherland, or the fatherland, and find a wife, and he realizes that his father is displeased with his Canaanite wives. Well, after all, you know how Hittite women are. And so he decides that, well, I'll just go marry somebody from the family. So he goes and marries 2 more women that were from Ishmael's lineage, which, by the way, was where the Arab nation now finds its roots. And Muslims, Islam finds its roots with Ishmael. And so Esau now marries into these two women that were from Ishmael's lineage. Which, I guess he was thinking he was doing the right thing. All he did was he just made matters worse. Because now he's got 4 mother-in-laws. And 2 of them are Hittites, so what are you going to do? So now he just makes matters worse. It all boils down to this. What we're looking at is we are looking at one major dysfunctional family. Can anybody's family beat this story?
Days of our lives.
Days of our lives. Days of our wives, in Esau's issue. What a mess. Total dysfunction. And you thought your family was dysfunctional. And it is. But, I look at this and I want to substitute the word messy. Messy. Just messy. This is one big, messy family. And our lives get like that. Our lives get so incredibly messy. By that I mean we have circumstances and people in our lives that contribute to conflict and chaos. And we don't know where all of that comes from. Sometimes we're the cause of it. Sometimes other people are the cause of it. But we all have messy lives. Every person that you're sitting next to in this room has a messy life. There are some issues in their lives. Sometimes they're the cause of it. Sometimes other people are the cause of it. Some people's lives are messier than other people's lives. But we all have, to a degree, messy lives. We have these things in our lives that complicate life and make life take these little twists and turns that really kind of mess with us. And we end up with messy lives. In Isaac and Esau's case, it was one of these things where sometimes you are the victim and sometimes you're the cause. Isaac was the victim, if you will. He was blind and they took advantage of him. Esau was, in one sense of the word, a victim because he had his birthright stolen and his position of authority in the family stolen. Sometimes you are the victim. Sometimes you get lied to. Sometimes you get scammed or used. I'm amazed at the number of people in life who just get taken advantage of over and over and over again. And sometimes it hurts so bad. That happens. We have messy lives. Then there are people like Rebekah and Jacob. People who cause some of those problems. And the fact of the matter is, manipulating people is just flat wrong. I mean, I don't care what the reason is. When you start manipulating people, that's wrong. Now, there's a big difference between negotiating and manipulating. Big, big difference. Negotiating, you know what the facts are, you know it's all on the table, you're negotiating. Manipulating is when you begin to deceive people, to try to get them to do something that you want them to do, or to behave a certain way that you want them. That's manipulation. And seeking to control others says that you don't believe that God is in control. When I take it upon myself to control you, what I'm saying is that God isn't big enough to control you. Or that He's not going to control you the way that I want you to be controlled. And so we begin to manipulate, and that's such an arrogant thing on our part. To begin to manipulate and to try to control people. Rebekah did it for what she thought were the right reasons. Jacob probably was better equipped to lead the family. And she wanted to preserve the lineage of the family, which was something that was a cultural issue for them. But it was still manipulation. It was still wrong. It was saying, you know, I've got to take control here because God's not big enough to control us. Jacob did it for selfish reasons. He wanted the birthright. He wanted the authority in the family. He deliberately deceived Isaac and Esau. He wanted it all. Notice that he didn't decide, oh, okay, so I did kind of take advantage of you here. I'll give you some of the inheritance. Now, he does later, when we study Jacob later on in his life, when there's a major change, a shift in Jacob's life, he does decide to share the inheritance. But at this point, he's not sharing the inheritance. He wanted the control and he wanted the authority. And by the way, this is generally the very thing that messes up our lives. The desire for control and authority is what causes messy lives. Either our desire for control and authority or someone's desire to control or be an authority over us. Those are generally the things that cause messy lives. So how do you get control of a messy life? When there are issues in your life that are just seemingly out of whack, and you don't know where to turn because you're either the victim or you caused these things yourself, what do you do at that point? Well, what we're going to take a look at over the next few minutes is how to get control of a messy life. Getting control of a messy life doesn't mean that you fix everything or that you solve all of the problems. That's the first thing that we need to come to a realization about. Fixing or getting control of a messy life doesn't mean that you fix everything. That just causes more problems. It means that you avoid, now listen to this, it means that you avoid being a part of the mess. Getting control of a messy life doesn't mean that you fix everything, it means that you avoid being a part of the mess. The issues that plagued Isaac's life wouldn't be solved in his lifetime. In fact, he was about to die. Those issues were not going to be solved. There wasn't anything Isaac was going to actually be able to do about those issues. But he did take control of his part of the mess, as we'll see here in a few minutes. He realized there are some things I can't do anything about. And so I need to just simply take control of what I can take control of as far as avoiding being part of the mess. And so he began to focus on the very basic foundations of what his life was really all about. He really went back to the basics.
Only by your blood.